Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's the Tea with Gen X, Y, and Z. We are three generations, three perspectives, one cup of truth. So, I want you to get ready for a refreshing take on hot button topics because we're going to be brewing up a steaming hot take on today's most pressing issues, where we'll dish on everything from social justice to pop culture. With humor, honesty, and maybe even a little healthy debate, we're going to sip the tea, spill the honest truth, and find some common ground across the generational gaps. This show is informative, it's insightful, and it's guaranteed to stir the pot.
Mhm.
So, hello everyone, I'm Dr. Melissa, and as always, I'm representing the fabulous X Factor.
And what's up, y'all? I'm Amber. I'm holding it down for us millennials.
And I'm Zion, keeping it real for us Gen Zers.
All right, y'all. So I hope you guys have been missing us. We've been gone for a few weeks. We were
Yeah.
very sad. We June is a heavy month with vacations, and I am really big on work-life balance.
Yes.
And so we work hard, but you got to learn how to play hard as well. So we needed to all take some R&R, and since we did not take it together, thankfully, yeah, we were sort of spread out over the month of June.
Yes.
But I will say the first week that we missed our Wednesday show was because of a very important holiday, and that was Juneteenth.
Yes.
Juneteenth fell on Wednesday this
Yeah.
year. And so just a little bit about that. I'm sure most of you know the history behind Juneteenth. But I think what's so cool about Juneteenth is that me as an Xer, I've always known what it was. As an African-American woman, we always knew what it was. We knew that people recognized it and celebrated it. And in fact, some states, individual states, recognized it, but it wasn't done on a federal level.
Yes.
Right.
And one of the things that we really want to talk about with this particular episode has to do with how Juneteenth even came to be a federal holiday.
Absolutely.
If you don't know, look up Miss Opal Lee, which was one of the pioneers for pushing the agenda for it to be signed into federal law, which Joe Biden did in 2021.
Yeah.
But y'all, what I was thinking about with that was Juneteenth has been a theme since the 1800s,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? But only recently, 3 years ago, was it really recognized in a mainstream way and
Right.
became a federal holiday.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with activism and the push for social change.
Right.
And if you are a part of the United States, I know that we have a global audience, but if you are a part of the United States, activism and social change is in our DNA.
Yes.
From the time of the Revolutionary War, the Boston Tea Party,
Yeah.
abolitionists doing slavery, whatever,
Yeah.
we have always been a people that have pushed for fairness and justice and all of that.
And change. Yeah.
And change, right?
Absolutely.
So today's show, we're going to talk about what that looks like across the generations.
Yeah.
Because each generation has had their push for change, but it's different. It's different in the things that we have fought for, and it's different in how we fight.
Absolutely.
So this show is going to be called Fight the Power. Those
Fight
of
the
y'all who
power.
don't know, Public Enemy, fight the power that be. Anyway.
I'm not going to do all that, y'all. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, first of all, what I wanted us to talk about, you guys, is some of the key social issues that have been a part of our own generational push, the things that have mattered to us from the generations. And since we don't have boomers here, I'm going to just represent for the boomers for a minute because it was the boomer generation that really fought for equality in this country, civil rights, women voting rights.
Yeah.
All of that happened before the X generation.
Right.
I was blessed that we came into a time and we enjoyed the fruit of the labor
Absolutely.
of civil rights. I was born in 1970. So by the time I was born, I never went to a segregated school. Desegregation had happened by the time I started school. And all of that was birthed on the backs of people before us.
Correct.
Who decided to say no. And this is not fair, and we're willing to do whatever we need to do to make that change.
Absolutely.
So that happened before. Now, for the X generation,
we're not gonna do no calculations because you did get your date of birth. Well, not all of it, but the year you were born. So.
Oh man, that's usually my job right there.
So what I'm sitting here thinking now is you take a little break.
Oh,
you take
man.
a little. She just came back from vacation, so I guess she's feeling
I'm a little refreshed.
real refreshed.
Like she's been sipping a lot of tea during vacation, huh?
A lot of tea in the shade. I thought you went to a sunny place, but clearly you didn't.
I did.
A lot of. So when we talk about social issues, you guys,
Yes.
Right.
For us as X generation, we were really big activists when it came down to AIDS awareness,
Right.
because that was the really huge social issue of my time. It was a scary time,
Right.
and it was almost, if you think about the pandemic of now,
Yeah.
back when I was young, the AIDS epidemic felt like that. Yeah, so for us, it was AIDS awareness. I'm going to throw out a couple other things, and then we'll talk more about it. We were big on work-life balance.
Oh, you just hit on that.
I know, right? And we were really big on other things too: apartheid, anti-globalization, stuff like that.
Right.
For you, Amber, as a millennial, what were some of the key social issues of your time?
Definitely marriage equality, the LGBTQ rights. That was a big one. The student debt crisis. I know y'all don't remember, a few shows ago we were talking about student loan debt, and how I, of course, said that some of us probably don't want to pay it back. So that was a big thing. The wage gap between genders was a big thing. Healthcare reform.
Woo!
Because when you file your taxes, they do ask you, did you pay healthcare?
Yeah.
So you got to have it, right? And it's a good thing to have. Those were some of the, things and key issues for millennials that we tapped into and, broadcasted so the world could take a stance on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what about
good
you?
stuff. Yeah.
So from a Gen Z perspective, of course.
Why do you always have to? It's always like you say that as if
they're the best generation.
Now finally the real people are talking. Like
right.
now the
No,
real
I
perspective.
just enjoy being the epitome of my generation and representing us. If y'all would have me, but but just for us Gen Zers, our primary focus is on environmental justice, police reform, and racial equality. And as you mentioned before, when you was talking about the boomers and establishing the policies and the movements y'all did, your responsibility was to maintain it. As a result, same with us, our responsibility is to maintain environmental justice, racial equality, police reform, and especially, if I could just throw an example for y'all, George Floyd. That was a whole big movement. And now as Gen Z, we're kind of y'all are the founders of social media, we're a lot more tech savvy than y'all. So we made it we made it our responsibility to really voice, use social media as an advantage and opportunity to really voice what's going on, and that changes need to be made, that we need to focus more on racial equality, and also maybe make some changes to police reform, and maybe better training, or whatever. And I got some ideas, but I'll save that for later.
No, that's so good, because I'm listening. When I was you brought up George Floyd, and believe it or not, that issue was what really sparked the push toward federalizing Juneteenth.
Yes.
It was one of those things.
Yes.
And I want to believe it was Senator Edward Markey from Massachusetts who sponsored that bill, sort of as a way of dealing with the pain and the divide that the country was dealing with.
Absolutely. And not separating the police from regular individuals, because for so long, police were in their own category where they could do pretty much anything. So, with that George Floyd situation, I was happy that they were pushing towards the chest cams and putting certain things into place that make, us Americans feel better safe, and knowing that our rights are being established and they're abiding by our rights that were put into place. So,
here's the thing that's funny, you guys, when we talk about social change and all of that, and the few examples that we mentioned now really revolves around some of the more racial tinge things. But let me tell you something. When we're talking about social justice and we're talking about the need for reform and activism, it's so broad.
It is.
As I alluded before, this whole country was based on the whole premise of civil disobedience.
Definitely.
You're right. That's what we were based on. And so it's in our DNA. It's a part of who we are.
Absolutely.
And so when you went back, when I was thinking about when you were talking about the whole wage gap,
yes,
inequality, and how that's really something that we're still grappling with.
Yeah.
We're still trying to
get it recognized,
even
change.
out the playing field. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been voiced, but there's no real change that has come about it. So a lot of people know that there's a lot of disparities in genders in certain workplaces. So, i.e., business.
Exactly.
When you're on Wall Street, a lot of people say when you're a woman, it's hard for you to climb up the ladder in Wall Street and get what your worth and your education. You got the same education as the males on Wall Street, but you're not getting compensated.
I'm going to jump in there because what I have to say with that is that leads us to another thing that you guys, Y and Zers, were responsible for bringing to light that Xers dealt with and lived with, and that's Me Too.
Yeah, the Me Too.
The Me Too movement, where the casting couch, the situation where women were faced with, in order to get up that ladder, sometimes there were some things that you were being forced to do in order to get a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
That wasn't a new thing, you guys. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the person that sort of spearheaded the whole Me Too is an Xer.
She is.
But what I will say is, we just the thing if I'm going to talk about social change and all of that, we have to lean into the fact that with Xers, we were sort of taught to respect authority.
Correct.
Yeah, we're pushing the envelope. We're in a country where civil disobedience is something that we sort of it's our life's blood. But we were also taught to just, that person is an authority. Whether it was a teacher, whether it was a doctor, whether it was a police officer, whatever. They said that's what it is. We were conditioned to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and sort of feel like you didn't have options. As I alluded to during one of our episodes when I talked about the fact that we stayed for the gold watch with the jobs because we didn't feel like we had permission.
Right.
You guys are such game changers. And it's just like, no, Zion used the word a few weeks ago, skepticism. But even more than that, it's just one of those things of, so you're going to have to prove that to me. Like, because you said that, because you said yes, doesn't make that the universal truth. Exactly. And it doesn't make it the truth for me.
Right.
And so when we think about that, when we think about that mindset, we really do have to give a lot of credit to you guys. Now, they push the envelope on everything. Let's just keep it clear. Some things ain't a battle. Everything don't need a movement. We're gonna storm. No, some things, norms are okay. It's okay to have norms.
Right.
But I will say, you guys have been really dope at doing that.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, so y'all probably saw the look she gave to me just right there about norms, and I spoke about evolution. And we just discussed how evolution can actually be a good thing. For example, when you said that Xer actually created that Me Too movement, or really expressed or pushed out that Me Too movement, she accessed social media. So I felt like, from my perspective, Gen Xers, y'all didn't challenge authority because you didn't have access to what's really going on through social media. Mm-hmm. You're only familiar with your own environment. Correct. However, via social media, you can see different environments, different demographics, everything. Yeah. So I love today's topic because the key focus of today's topic is really just power and balance. It's not always associated with race, gender, but those are some great components and great aspects of it. Absolutely. We talk about police, we talk about gender, we talk about race. So I love the title, Fight for Power. Let's fight for the power balance.
Fight the power.
Oh, fight the power.
It's from Public Enemy. It's from Chuck D and Flavor Flav.
Right. Anyway, yeah.
Fight for power.
I didn't know who was in it. I know
regardless, generational disparity, y'all, as y'all can see. But the importance is just to maintain the balance. So even from a Zier's perspective, we going into an organization, Ageism. You know, so there's so many different perspectives from each generation, how we're all equally affected, just in different facets.
So you guys, this is good stuff. We are going to have to take a break. Oh my gosh, but it's like the conversation has me just so geared up and geeked up, because even with what you just said about Xers not having access and only seeing what's in our environment, and oftentimes you feel like you're in a silo. You don't realize that it's happening to other people.
Absolutely.
With social media, we're now able to know on a broad level the different things that are happening, which gives you voice.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes,
exactly.
I'm going to stop using my voice right now to take this quick break. Y'all don't go anywhere. Come right back. Yes. We're going to be gone for a few seconds, and then we'll continue this very, very important discussion.
Catch the wave of success with Standing on Business with Dr. Melissa. Unlock your purpose, align it with your entrepreneurial spirit, and witness your business thrive. This isn't just about authenticity, it's about building a foundation so solid, your business becomes synonymous with profitability. Tune in as we delve into marketing strategies that work and create an empire that stands on business. Because when purpose meets strategy, success is inevitable. Standing on Business with Dr. Melissa, where authenticity meets profitability.
Okay, so welcome back to What's the Tea with Gen X, Y, and Z. Before we took the break, we were talking about just activism and social change and that sort of thing. So
absolutely. And before we get into the next topic, I did want to go back to when I was talking about the healthcare reform, and it's not enough light being shed on how hard it was for Americans to get healthcare. It was a lot of individuals that, passed because they didn't have access to healthcare. I'm happy that there's a lot of different programs now that are giving us the opportunity to have access to healthcare, like Medicaid and Medicare and different things of that sort. But, until within the past, 5 to 6 years, it wasn't any healthcare, and individuals are sadly, passing away because they were finding out once they got to the hospital that they were in, the terminal phase of cancer, right, or just not being able to get that preventative care.
That part.
And the screenings, where some of these things that now that you're able to say, well, this is the regimen that you'll go through so we can get this under wraps. They weren't afforded that opportunity. So I did want to make sure that I went into more detail about how big of an issue that it really is.
Oh, goodness. Let me just say thank you. And give yourself more credit. It was more than 5 or 6 years. You think about it. This went back to Obamacare 2008,
Yes,
like years.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, though, personally, I lost family members. Yeah. Personally, healthcare is a very hot button topic, and people like in different ways. Right. But, healthcare is a right. It's something that I certainly believe in. I had family members that by the time they went to the hospital, they were so sick, they were already in stage 4 cancer. And it was because they did not have a PCP, primary care physician. They did not get screenings, and because they couldn't afford it.
Absolutely.
And so thank you. We needed that. So,
amen.
So let's talk about, we were talking about the social, the different key social issues that each of the generations took up.
Right.
And that really, to be honest with you, has moved the needle to make really a better life, a better world for everybody. Right. Absolutely. And so I'm proud of all of us, just as throughout the generations, for being those people willing to take up the mantle. And it's not easy. Activism is not easy when you're pushing against the grain, but we do it, and then the future generations like me benefit from the past generations.
Correct.
Okay, but here's the thing: we're always talking about the difference in how we approach things. Right. Let's talk now a little bit about the difference in our activism tactics, right? Because it's a little different. What I will say is that for Gen Xers, we were, our tactics included like organizing boycotts. And we sort of piggybacked on that from the boomers, right, who did the sit-ins and the mass boycotts and that sort of thing. So we would boycott companies when it came down to apartheid and whether it was sex trafficking, whatever it was. If we found out that companies were doing business with countries that we felt like they were mass human rights violations, we would organize boycotts. That's one of the things that we would do whenever we saw unethical practices. Gen Xers, we also would engage in street protest. That was one of our other things. And you can go back to the WTO protest in Seattle. And so our tactics, because we were limited in other options, were more physical, tangible, in-person, kind of grassroots kind of things. So as far as millennials, how did you guys engage in tactics?
Yeah, so we pioneered the social media activism.
Pioneer.
Yes, just like when Zion was saying that, we more so pioneered social media in its whole. Even when it came to activism, we went to social media for that. We did campaigns like Occupy Wall Street and Bring Back Our Girls. Like we were hashtag sensational activists, okay?
Yes.
We would put a hashtag and just fly away with it, okay? Yeah. Because, hashtags, it brings recognition to certain things, especially when you're on social media. So, if you want to go viral, you're going to hashtag something so it can populate, right? Right. And, we developed online petitions through different platforms like change.org, moveon.org. And then we also utilized funding sites like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, just from a personal experience. I had friends that would pass away and, sometimes they didn't have life insurance policies. So for their family members to be able to bury them in a respectable manner, they would go to sites like GoFundMe, asking for donations. So it's really popular, that people do GoFundMe or, change.org. Like if you want to fight a cause that's going on. I had a old basketball coach that was being, profiled against in a wrong manner, but he was helping ultimately. And, some of his students and some of the faculty put together a petition to help him not get fired. So a lot of things of what we did definitely were social media organized, and it went a long way where it could get a lot of recognition.
Right. Speaking of social media,
here you go, about to juice it up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed your conversation about healthcare, and I love that your entry where you was talking about limited resources. And, I spoke earlier about a limited worldview, and then too, a lack of encouragement to go get checked out and to, monitor your health. Gen Zers, we make it a point of emphasis to use social media to voice any relevant, relatable topic. That could be abuse, gender roles. It could be dating. So we've really taken advantage of social media to really voice our opinion that will get reached out to a general audience, because everybody utilizes social media now, especially, just a couple apps to mention, YouTube and obviously TikTok, y'all. We all use TikTok. We all scroll through during a little 10-minute, 5-minute. We scroll through even before bed, y'all. So really, that moment seriously. Right there, that brief moment right there, you can be educated about healthcare, the importance of it, the importance of not maybe, remaining in a toxic relationship, of physical abuse. You can be taught about the importance of ageism and then the importance of whatever, you can access a lot of information like that. Earlier, I also mentioned the power imbalance and how that can be associated with race, gender, and also as well as different groups like the LGBTQIA+. I mean, any group of any ethnicity, whatever groups that can be discriminated against, it's important that we can now utilize social media to fight and protect these groups and just these ideals. You can be discriminated because any ideals or values that you hold or adopt. And having social media now, we really use that as a shield to protect individuals from discrimination.
Yes. So for you guys, that tactic, the social media is just central to your way of civil disobedience
Yes.
and highlighting stuff.
Yes, and the term I would use is cancel culture. So that right there can leave people on edge. Think twice about judging someone's ideals, their orientation, their race, etc. Yeah. So there's a lot more protection from social media now.
Listen, when you guys say cancel culture, I mean, there have been a plethora of public figures, big names that have been held accountable.
Yes.
Things that were, and when you talk about power imbalance,
exactly.
and people that were too powerful, too big to fall.
Exactly.
Right? And for the most part, when I talked about Gen Xers feeling powerless in some cases, the whole cancel culture, and like anything, we can go too far with it, like anything. But I will say that it has been instrumental in shedding light on some things that are not new. Abuse, sexual harassment, these things are not new, right?
No.
The need for reform, brutality, these things have always existed.
It promotes equality and accountability. That's why a lot of things resurface from back in the day. Right. From 10 years ago or 20 years ago now resurfaces and to show like there can't be a power imbalance. Definitely. People are held accountable, and now that makes people think twice for future reference what they do and to treat people better.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it, y'all. I love it. So listen, y'all, we could do like a part 2 to this, and I'm telling you, because it's so juicy. It's juicy because it really is relevant, and it really is. It's really about what's happening even right now. Yeah. But it is evidence that the generational perspectives and the way that we do things differently, we are still achieving the same goals. We just go about it differently, right? So I want to thank you guys. We've come to the end of our time. Yes. I want to thank you all for joining us on this journey of exploring social change and activism and the differences with that amongst the generations. I want you to remember that every conversation is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with one another. So, you guys, let's keep this conversation brewing. Let's keep asking questions and listening to understand so that we can acknowledge the unique challenges each generation faces. But here's the thing, y'all. We got to look for common ground because trust me, it's there. So until the next time, I want y'all to keep sipping and keep talking. Tune in next week. Yes, we will be back next week. Vacation is over. Yes. Tune in next week for a thought-provoking and entertaining conversation that bridges the generational gap. One cup at a time. Take care.